Welcome, everybody, to the big picture with Grant and Chris. Happy holidays. If we missed you during the holidays, hope you had a great Thanksgiving. We're deep into the holiday spirit right now, heading straight into the Christmas time, as well as other religious holidays. And then we get to that all inclusive holiday we call New Year's. So we're going to bring this up. Hey, Chris, tell me now, we just saw Macy's Day Parade. We were talking about a little bit last week on brand wars and Sears, Amazon, that whole type of thing. Tell me what's going on in your world.
Well, Grant, exactly that. I mean, as a kid growing up on Thanksgiving, one of the biggest things was the Macy's Day Parade, right? And watching everything go. I was able a few times to actually be there on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan where the parade would march down. So I did a little looking into it. First from, well, why and how and when kind of things, a little history, right? I like to go into the history, right? So let's start with that. 1924, Macy's decided that they had a problem, which was how to convince New Yorkers to shop at their Herald Square store, which, by the way, is the largest department store in the world to this day, right? With all the competition for Christmas dollars, they wanted an edge. What did they do? They threw a parade, right? So the very first year, the parade was store employees dressed up in costumes, marching bands, and animals borrowed from the zoo, with Santa Claus at the very end. The very next year is when they brought in the helium balloon characters, which are now iconic to every Macy's Day Parade. And in fact, kind of interesting is that in the first few parades, after the parade, they would let those helium balloons go and would pay a reward of $100. This is back in the late 20s to whoever brought back that helium balloon, right? Until we had almost a pilot crash his plane because of one of the balloons. So they stopped doing that, right? So that's a little history, Grant. But now let's get into something that I know you're going to find interesting because I did. And this is what I would term the Macy's Parade money machine. All right. Yeah. Everyone thinks about, wow, Macy's spends a lot of money every year to put on this parade. And it's true. It's not a cheap thing to do and organize and have all the new characters and helium balloons with the old ones and all this, right? But when you dig into the numbers, Grant, it really is eye-popping to a large extent, okay? Last year, it cost Macy's $13 million to put on the parade.
13 million. Wow, that's big money.
A lot of money. It's a lot of money, right? Well, you think about that, and then you think about NBC pays Macy's for the television rights $20 million.
Okay, so it pays for itself. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And NBC turns around and sells 30-second commercial time last year at $900,000 each. So NBC's cost is the $20 million to Macy's plus about $7 million in broadcast production costs, right? What they generate last year, they generated $52.8 million.
That's why you do it.
Not so bad, right? It's not a bad deal. Okay, so back to Macy's though, because that's our topic. Macy's, the cost of $13 million. It last year featured 17 character balloons, right? 22 floats, 11 marching bands, 700 clowns.
I never knew that.
Yeah. They estimated that 3.5 million people were in-person spectators lining up both sides.
3.5 million? That many? Wow.
3.5 million. Okay. And they estimate that 3.5 million spent something in the neighborhood of 200 million in tourism revenue for the city of New York.
Nice.
Okay, let's get back to Macy's. Okay, so Macy's pays 13 million. They get 20 million for NBC, right? They have sponsors because everything gets sponsored. Every
Sure.
float, every balloon, every band gets sponsored, right? $50 million worth of sponsorship money. Okay. And when you start looking at all this, right, that the Macy's Day Parade turns out because sponsors pay about $200,000 each for the balloons, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, not so bad, right?
No,
And then you have,
multi-revenue streams. I'm cha-ching, cha-ching. You're speaking like a true banker there, Chris.
well, I am, but I'm also like, hoping to hit your brand inside there.
Man,
Because this is,
my branding side, first of all, you have to have the right framework. It has to make financial sense, especially when you're doing events. I do a lot of events, what those events are going to look like. And the number one, usually the problem is like, well, what is the cost of production? And then you've got to make sure that that's offset, usually by your anchor sponsor. In this case, Macy says, hey, I've got an anchor sponsor in the TV production company every year that actually covers all my costs. So that's already done. That's like beautiful. But then you got to make it, attractive. It's got to be valuable, right? They're not going to do that year over year if it's not there. So from a branding perspective, it has to have value. It has to have value not only for yourself, it has to have value for that's my your especially your anchor sponsor, and then all those other sponsors. They want to be a part of the pie. Like, well, how can I get a part of that, Macy's? Because Macy's is going to get out of tourist dollars. New York City is already deeply involved. The tourists are like the little people. We say the end user. Well, what do they get out of this? Well, obviously, I know for me, on my bucket list is always I want to be at the Macy's Day Parade. Like I want to be you're in the in crowd, right? Of course, and then you want to partake in all the festivities. Like you're in New York, and you want to go to Broadway, you want to do all these different things. So you come there with your pot of money that you actually want to get, let go of and go home with the entire Thanksgiving Macy's Day experience. It's all about the experience and valuable. You've got to be able to put something on that people are willing to pay for. They don't have to wonder about. This is a key thing, Chris. And I call it the McDonald's effect. And why do I call it that? Because no matter where you're at in the world, typically, when you go into that McDonald's, the experience that you're going to get. It's very consistent. I don't care where you're at. You go in there, you're going to get the fries, you're going to get the whole menu. Typically it's going to taste the exact same way. It's not going to be that bad. So when you know what you're going to get out of the Macy's Day Parade, your kids are going to forever love you. That you just bought 50 years of experience. I remember my dad. They took us to the Macy's Day. It's a buy. So it's a win, 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 super win for everybody. Fantastic branding.
What? And here's the thing too, is remember Macy's terms this and has always termed this as the Macy's annual gift to the nation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay. So branding, right? It's really great. And I felt your excitement. I've been there as a kid. I've been there and as an adult. It is that exciting. You're standing on the sides, doesn't matter how windy and cold it is, and you're looking down. You can't wait to see what comes next. They got you. Grant, it is a 3-hour commercial disguised as a cultural institution.
Wow. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Right.
And by the way, all the money that Macy's makes just as a result of the parade, it does not include a penny that gets spent in their stores that day and all the days after, right up to Christmas, right?
Yeah. That's like, as you said, iconic branding. And you just, when you go, anybody goes to New York City, no matter what time of year, you're right. You got to go into Macy's. You got to go into Macy's. Now, remember that movie, Miracle on 34th Street, right?
Oh yeah.
Everybody remembers that, right? Right?
The original was done in 1934, and it's been redone probably half a dozen times. And just another small fact: my mother went to Hunter College, which at the time was all girls, and she worked at Macy's in Herald Square as
Yeah.
part-time to pay for college.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I don't want to bring up politics because it is, but even before politics, remember our current president, President Trump. Everybody remembers him in that film, right? Right. I think it was I can't, Connie Copeland. I can't remember his name, but he was filmed in that particular scene. I think he was either going up the elevator or that time, but everybody remember that was kind of the start of what you call an expanded personal brand of Donald Trump.
Yep. The Trump was a brand long before the thoughts of being a president, right?
Yeah. And I think that actually happens. So when it comes down to branding, personal branding, I'm not telling what side of the aisle you are. You just got to remember those things are memorable. And if you can brand yourself and pair yourself with these types of things, that's why people pay for sponsorships. They want to be paired with the Macy's Day Parade because, to your point, it's almost like being a part of the 4th of July, right? It's a holiday for the nation, and then they see your brand as a part of it. Oh, you're part of that brand. I want to buy into that, and it just keeps compounding over and over. So what you just took us through is a compound formula. Again, as a banker, you would love this, right? That compound interest. So you take a smaller investment, 13 million. I think who wouldn't want it? I'll pay 13. I'll put up 13 million, and you take back 50 million plus. Who would not take that deal?
I'm telling you, and even NBC also, great deal for them. Now, the whispers on the street is Macy's is renegotiating for next year at 60 million a year. So watch out, NBC.
I don't, it's kind of hard. You see it right now. There's a lot of media wars going on right now between YouTube, TV, the major networks, the sporting. Now, who wants to brand themselves with the NFL or the NBA and that type of thing? That's why things go on. You want these giant TV deals. People are like, oh, wow, that NBA player is getting paid X amount. Well, that gets paid because of these enormous media deals that take place. So can Macy's get another 8 million out of that? Absolutely. I think it's going to happen.
I mean, now the competition, you're exactly right. The competition is really out there. I mean, why wouldn't ESPN look to bid for the Macy's Day Parade? Because it's all part of the Thanksgiving football and everything else that goes on, right? Because before the football games start, you got the parade. So you capture those eyes, leading them right into the football. Just throwing it out there, okay?
No, what you just said, remember now, our viewing experience, think about it. You had the Macy's Day Parade. You just had Thanksgiving. Guess what else is happening that same weekend? All the college rivalries that are going on that's going to determine the championships and then eventually the national champion. You got everybody. Then you've got not only that's NCAA football. Let's take a look at NFL football. NFL football. Look at Thanksgiving Day. Everybody knows Dallas is going to play. Everyone knows Detroit's going to play. Everyone wants them to be in that game. Look at all the different types of revenue streams that are taking place just from that Thursday to that Sunday. Really much today is, that was Cyber Monday. So that when you even get into that, you got the Black Friday, you got a Small Business Sunday or Saturday, you've got then the Cyber Monday that's going on. Money. See, look at that grin on Chris's face. That's the grin of a banker. And we're going to go for a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to continue on with this conversation because this is so much fun. So be right back.
This is it. They didn't take the championship lead until round 5, but now, having already done the honours last year, Team Brady 2025 champions of the water here in Miami.
In today's fast-paced financial landscape, access to capital is the key to success. At the heart of this revolution is Case Capital Markets, powered by SETI Case. Here, innovation and investment converge, creating a dynamic environment where businesses can thrive and reach new heights. Introducing Grant McGaw, the Senior Advisor at Case Capital Markets. Grant is a visionary leader, dedicated to connecting businesses with institutional capital and strategic funding. His expertise opens doors to game-changing investment opportunities, making him an invaluable partner for companies looking to scale and succeed in the competitive world of finance. With an impressive 25 years in technology, 9 years in healthcare, and 6 years in investment banking, Grant McGaw has a proven track record. He has successfully closed over $500 million in high-value transactions, seamlessly bridging technology, healthcare, and infrastructure with innovative financial solutions. His experience is a testament to his ability to drive success. Case Capital Markets offers businesses direct access to over 32,000 venture capital firms, private equity funds, family offices, and institutional investors. This network empowers mid-market companies with under $100 million in revenue to scale beyond their limits, unlocking unprecedented growth potential. Debt, equity, growth capital, public offerings. These are the building blocks of the future of capital access. Whether you're scaling a business, seeking investment, or exploring market expansion, Grant McGaw is your trusted partner. Together, you can unlock capital and create long-term financial success. The future belongs to those who take action. Are you ready to elevate your business?
Hey, Chris, we are back, man. You know, that commercial, we just watched this commercial, financial IT. I always been wondering, I encourage Chris to tell us his origin stories around that, financial IT, FinTech, all that stuff that goes on in that, the things that you're doing, the things you're going to be doing here in the near future. Talk to us a little bit about your story, Chris.
Yeah, well, Grant, I tell you, I really appreciate that you brought that up because I think that it's interesting, but I think maybe there's some words of wisdom that maybe can guide some other people on the kind of journey that it's been, right? And I'll start off with a little of my background. I'm originally from New York, right, from New York City, and my career has really all been in the international banking world, related one way or another into that international banking world. I got very interested in crypto in 2013 and was really one of the first people in the banking community to be up on stage speaking about it, which I quite still enjoy when I get the opportunity to do that. So it was kind of a natural transition. I mean, financial IT was started by my partner, Muzaffar Karabalov, who's originated the magazine itself, and we've been working together on it now for better than a decade. And I think today, if we were to start all over again today, we probably would not have named the publication and the company Financial IT, right? Financial Information Technology. That's what IT stands for. So Financial IT, we probably would have named it FinTech News or FinTech something or other. But in those days, FinTech was not really a common term. So it didn't really, kind of cross the mind of it and everything. So sometimes, you kind of grow into something that you don't even know is there, right?
Yeah.
And you have to kind of expect some of that. So part of my personal journey though here is, I always enjoyed writing, right? And like I said, I always enjoyed speaking at events, and have been doing that really since last century, right? when you think about it.
Yeah, right. That is what it is. Yeah.
And what happens when you write, or even when you get the opportunity to typically represent the company you work for on stage, right? That there's certain parameters and boundaries and people looking over your shoulder and these kind of things, and most of them are actually either typically in marketing, and then of course upper management, right? So there were many occasions when I wrote something about the industry, particularly I try to always look and try to give people some advance warning on what I think might happen, might likely happen, where the changes are, right? And a lot of times the reality of what I write doesn't quite exactly match with the reality of the company or the bank, right?
Yeah.
So typically what happens is they rewrite things, or they just cut things out, or they want to embed the corporate message into kind of an opinion article, which is really kind of what I write. Now, I get the difference, and you need those kind of articles that in particularly are informational disguised informational as a commercial for right. Exactly, that's exactly the term, right? So I get that, and there are times when that's been done, but a lot of times, when you're writing about something that's a hot topic, or you're writing about something that's new, and it's what's the future going to be, you don't know what that brand is going to be later on. Anyway, so for me, that was one issue that really kind of bothered me in my career. And I got to tell you, one of my really pet peeves about it is in so many of these companies, other executives at my level would have marketing write their article for them, and then they would get it published. Marketing would do that, and they would brag about, hey, did you see my article? Look at my picture, this, that. But if you asked them one question about their article, they couldn't answer it. They had no idea what it was about because marketing wrote it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's
they didn't write it themselves. Yeah, I get that.
It's always been a big thing about me. I always do all my own presentations. I write all my own articles, white papers. I've done them. I do them all myself, because to really be accurate and confident, you need depth of knowledge. It's my belief anyway. You need depth of knowledge of what it is. Now, I'll give you a little side stories. I spoke at an event. This is in the early 2000s. There was about 2,000 bankers, and I go out there. My presentations have always been very different. They're much more, for instance, I can do 40 slides, and Grant, maybe there's 20 words.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, you know how to zip through. Yeah, right.
It's more about telling a story and using different images and graphics and short little videos and those kind of things to help illustrate the story. Because when I sit down to do a presentation or I sit down to write an article, the first thing I do in my mind is I say, what are the 2 or 3 important things I want people to remember?
Memory.
Right?
I love that.
What are those 2 or 3 things? Because, I think the statistics say people are only going to remember maybe 15% of what's said
3
on.
things. They're only going to remember maybe 3 things. That's it.
Well, and then to me, the trick is, how can I consistently represent those 3 things in different ways throughout the presentation or article, right? Now, a presentation, of course, it's easier, right? You can do it with words. A lot of people are very audio, right? You could do it with an image, or you could do it with a short video, because many people are visual, right? And what I'm looking to do is, I think back to when I was in school, right? I don't know, 2nd grade or 3rd grade, whenever you learn your multiplications table, right? How did you learn your multiplications table? Well, all you did all day long was 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 4 is 8, right? You did that all day long until you had all your up to 12, all your multiplication tables. Now, of course, I'm sure nobody does that because you have calculators in your phone, okay? Even at grade school age. All right.
That's true. And to your point, Chris, I remember grade school. And the reason why I remember those, it was rhymes. And those rhymes, it was very memorable. Like your ABCs. Who doesn't remember ABC? Not because, you remember the song or the rhyme that went with it, and you can go all the way through. So that teaching element, what you just said, and I like how you said strength of story, the narrative, bringing it back to those key points. But first, identify those 3 clear points and make sure you're coming back to that over and over again. So at the end of the day, when people have moved on and they got other content that's coming at them, they're going to remember your stuff. Oh, Chris, oh yeah, he's the 3-point guy.
This is what we hope, right? So I'm there and I'm speaking in front of this audience of about 2,000 bankers. And, my presentation went well, and I came off stage, and a number of people came up to ask me a question or speak to me, whatever. Well, my boss at the time, who was based in London, had come over. This was in the States. I don't remember where exactly, but he came over, and it was his first time he ever saw me present. Now, he had always supported and approved any of the places that I wanted to go to be able to speak, because he believed that, no matter what I say, people also see the company, right? And that's kind of smart, right? I think in a lot of ways, if you speak about a topic, people automatically assume, well, that company is knowledgeable on that topic because I spoke about it and I represent them, right? So I really appreciate the fact he did that. So that night we went out and had dinner, and over dinner he says, you know what, in 6 weeks, I have the opportunity to speak at an event in Germany.
Yeah.
Can I use your presentation? And I'm like, his name was Paul. I'm like, Paul, I have no problem with giving you that. You're well spoken. You're a good presenter. I'll go over it with you. Give you any pointers, any help you need. But Paul, let me ask you one question. And he's like, what? What's the question? I'm like, okay. So you get up there and speak. You'll do a great job. And when you're done speaking, what will you do when somebody does this?
Ask the question, yeah.
And then he thought about it for a second. He said, yeah, I don't think I'll speak at that event.
He wasn't, yeah, okay, I got it, yeah.
But again, that comes back to the point, is if you're going to write about something, if you're going to present about something, if you're going to sit with people and discuss something, make sure what you're discussing, that you have depth of knowledge. That you've got that the full, you don't need the full story, but you need to make sure that your facts are correct. Your points
you have to be. I use that in branding, right? My Brave framework, and I put that in the pillar of authenticity. So brand is brand identity. you got to do your research part of that, right? Authentic, then make it visible and you execute on it. But if you're missing any part of that, guess what? It don't spell brave. So if you haven't done your research, right? You're not authentic. You got it ain't brave. I don't know what you got there, but it's probably a little different. So you got to know what you're talking about. I think this is an important thing, especially with today. People are using AI. AI is a great tool. It can generate information all day long. But if you don't understand, meaning the context of the information, you don't know how to apply the knowledge, you don't have any wisdom around it. To your point, if somebody goes like, hey, let me ask you a question, you'd be like, well, let me go type this in first, because you don't really know what you're talking about. So you got to know those things.
Well, it's interesting when you speak about AI because, with financial IT, we get sent a lot of articles, a lot of information all these times. And, it's still pretty easy to pick out who's using AI, and I'll give you the parallel to it, right? A lot of times I'll go to an event and the event's in a different country typically, and the audience is not English natives, right? So there'll be a translator, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you have a translator who's translating a conversation, that's ground zero for translation, right? We can do that. Hi, how are you? What are you doing? This. But when you ask a translator to translate business ideas and concepts and terms, that's where it gets very difficult unless they know that industry,
exactly,
which is usually very hard to find, right? So that's kind of the parallel that you have I find with AI is that, yes, you can definitely, I think it's great for fact checking. I think it's great for, building up some content, but AI will not necessarily understand how to take that content and put it into the business speak, right? The terms that are consistent in that particular niche of an industry. And when you're in that niche, like I am in financial IT, you can pick that out where, that's not how that's not the word we would use for that. That's, a lot of banking terms are specific,
Yeah. No, you know what, Chris, you bring up a great point. We're going to come back. We're going to go to a quick break. We're going to come back because I want to unpack more about what you're doing, because you gave us a little of your origin story, but you got some stuff that you're rolling out, going into 2026, I think is important. People got to understand your readership because you're very, very humble. You have a very good readership, and we want to talk about that when we come back. Give you one break.
The difference between influence and legacy, it's the platform that carries your voice. You're not visible because you lack talent. You're visible because your brand doesn't speak. I've built 5-star BDM to change that. Most leaders have the expertise, but not the presence, the vision, but not the vehicle. Across 3 cities, one brand is helping leaders rise above the noise. Here in the heart of Omaha, strategy isn't left to chance. It's engineered with precision. In Omaha, we engineered your Zachner brand, AI-powered, data-driven, precise. TISA went from a local nonprofit to a national speaker in 90 days. We don't guess your brand strategy, we build it. On the shores of St. Croix, your brand takes on depth and meaning, shaped through curated retreats and legacy experiences. In St. Croix, strategy becomes soul. Our retreats don't just refine your message, they rediscover your mission. One founder rewrote his entire company story here. Funding followed 30 days later. This is where leaders remember who they were meant to be. In vibrant Miami, momentum meets amplification, transforming your voice into a movement. In Miami, your brand becomes a movement. Business development accelerators, audience building. Joy came with an old website and an outdated company name, but she left with 5,000 followers and a waiting list. This is where you scale with soul. 3 cities, 1 mission, your legacy ignited. It started with a thread. Let's pull it together. Stop blending and start leading. 5-star BDM, where legacy is engineered, embodied, and ignited. Visit 5starbdm.com and book your brand audit today.
Welcome to our TV network,
your ultimate destination for all things exciting and essential. From mouth-watering food to the latest in fashion, health, education, music, movies, and news, plus thrilling sports and breathtaking travel, our TV network brings it all to you. Tune in today and experience the best of every world, all in one place, RTV.network.
Welcome back to the Big Picture with Grant McGaw and Chris Principe. We are unpacking the history, the story, the narrative around financial IT that Chris and his partner owns. We're starting to get a better understanding of what this company is all about and what they're doing. I want you to continue because you got my interest, Chris. So tell me a little bit more.
Well, Grant, what I want to tell you now is just the three key things for me on why this was an important move for me, right? And we spoke about one already and a little bit about the other. But so the first one has been that I like to write and I wanted the freedom to be able to write the way I want to write, the message I want. And anybody who's seen our publication, we have my editor writes a letter about that particular theme of the issue, but I write the publisher's letter, and it's about whatever moves me at that day. The day I sit down to write, and I'm writing one right now for the next issue, which is going to come out in another week. And whatever the issue is that moves me, whether it's crypto or it's the global South and what's going on, or any of the topics, right? And I like that freedom and the ability to be able to write that where no one can say anything about it. Okay, so that was one really key reason. The second one, which we touched a little bit, is for me to stay up to date in the industry, which is very important to both my consulting side and my training side, as well as speaking. It's really a lot of work to be able to go out there and look for all the latest and greatest and newest information with a publication, with a media company. It's amazing how much you get sent, and it becomes a lot of work to go through and see what's important to me and not, right? But it's a lot easier to do that than go out looking for it. Now, yeah, with AI now, you have some tools that can make some of that easier, but at the end of the day, you still gotta, at least skim through and say, oh yeah, that's something that is useful, and I can learn a little bit. Like just like our original topic today, Thanksgiving Day Parade. I mean,
yeah.
Who would have thought that would have been a topic that had, so exciting financial implications behind it?
Right.
And that just came because, I sat there with the grandkids watching a little bit of the parade. I didn't watch the whole thing, but watching a little bit of the parade. And I said to myself, there's got to be numbers behind this. And then went and looked a little bit, right? So that kind of thing is what's important in me being able to keep it. But the third one, I think, is really key, and I think you're going to really agree because it's right up your alley. Okay, the third one is all about my network, and everyone, whether you have a personal brand or not, the key to your success in life, to me, is always two things, right? One, you have to do the extra. You can't do the same as everyone else and want more. I mean,
absolutely, you can't be a premium brand if you're a commodity.
Right. So you have to do the extra. And then the second one is you need people in your network. You need to grow that all the time. And you need to be able to go through that and see who is valuable, who is interesting. You know, there's all these different things, and you kind of file that away for the future things. So for me, one thing really important about financial IT is how it's grown my network. Right.
Well, your
So now
network is
I can
big.
go
Yeah.
and I go to events and I know people at the events. And if I don't, they know financial IT, right? I can go up to the CEO of a bank and say, listen, I want to do an article about you and put your face on the cover. Their egos prevent them from saying no.
Of course.
Their ego. Okay. Because to be CEO of a bank or any big company, you don't get there without a better than average ego, to put it
Sure.
nicely. Right?
Yeah.
You don't. You just if you don't have that, you don't have some of the drive that's necessary. It's not the only thing, and there's a lot of people that carry it too far, obviously, right?
All those things, what you just said, is so important. It's the visibility factor, but being visible in the right place. Now, you built the brand. Like, he wouldn't just want to be on anybody's financial IT or some or competitor of yours if they had small reach. So it's like, that's just not where I want to be seen in the industry leading publication. You are an industry leading publication. Give us some numbers behind financial IT. I mean, you're going to drop this next, episode of yours, how many people usually read that?
Well, right now we have a consistent mailing list, let's say, right? Because our magazines, if you go to the website, you can read the magazine for free. No pay door. There's no, read this and then it leads you to something else. We want people to know about what's going on in the FinTech world. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we say about the magazine and what's important to me is we want to be the voice of FinTech. That's always been my goal, because I've always looked at it and said, most magazines, especially when we were starting, okay, what it makes what's our identity, right? What's our identity? So most magazines had a lot of articles from the banks and ads from the banks, and everything revolved around the banks. And I said to myself, after being in banks and working with financial software companies to sell to banks, right? I said, you know what? The experts are not in the banks. The banks are basically telling you what they don't know. Okay. The true experts are the FinTech companies, because a lot of them are ex-bankers, right? They learned their craft from the bottom up. Another key important thing, right? You can't come out of college and expect to be the senior vice president, right?
Sure.
You got to learn your craft from the bottom up, and then they find one particular niche that needs a software solution that, in their experience, they need to do it better. They become the experts. They're the ones that really know that business in and out and can really discuss it, because they have to sell their solutions to the banks. They need to know it better than banks, and they do. So to me, that was very, very attractive, to be able to try and move us into an identity of we're the voice of FinTech.
Well, you've done that. And I think what you mentioned to me was like 200,000 people or I mean, you have impressive numbers, and people are taking it off the shelf. And I love your marketing tactic, and people don't understand. I want people to really lean in on that. I'll give you a little bit of my knowledge and experience and just what I really like. Remember when Facebook first came out? It's a free platform, right? Anybody can jump on the platform. Well, as more and more people got on it, now all of a sudden now you've got a contained audience that you can market to. And at first people think, well, how is Facebook going to make money? They don't make money. No one's paying, to read somebody else's post. How are they going to get paid? Well, as you see now, paid ads did fairly well for Facebook. So I would figure, even if you're giving out free information, and because it's probably a subscription model. However, people want to be in your magazine because the visibility is there, and that if you're not in financial IT, you're not in FinTech, right?
Yeah, this is definitely how it's grown for us, and I've been very thankful that people have seen it that way. because it's been an enjoyable ride. I will say that. So yeah, so our mailing list is almost 250,000 now, and those are people that, when a new issue comes out, those people get it right away. Anyone that signs up would get that from us right away. And out of that, now we're actually down to 61% of those are bankers, and that's mainly because the FinTech side has increased. So our FinTech numbers now are 30% are FinTech, right? And that's steadily grown. So FinTech is reading FinTech is my conclusion, right?
It's pretty good. You're the industry standard, right? The gold standard of FinTech. That's a beautiful thing to be. I am the gold standard of financial IT news. I like that. FinTech reads me every day.
Yeah. So some of the things for next year that I'm really excited about, because there's constant transition going on. So we're first and foremost are going to be taking a real big swing into social media. We've been had a nice presence for a long time on LinkedIn, but now we're going to go and we're going to spread across. And my strategy there, Grant, you might find interesting, because we're going to, starting in the new year, we're going to go out there and we're just going to put up any kind of relevant news. Okay, not necessarily FinTech specific. I'm not as interested in the content as I'm in the quantity right now. Okay,
Yeah.
We want to really blanket as much as we can with quantity, and then we'll move later in the year to refine that to the quality and what we're known for, voice of FinTech, right? But we want to grab some of that audience right now, and that's one of the things. The other thing, I mean, of course, this show, which we've been really thankful to be able to do this show. I've got you, who's been a great host and really bring out the best of me. Thank you very much. And we want to do that. We're going to start in our new media kit, and people that don't know, a media kit is where we describe our what we do, the industry, our numbers, and then we have what it costs for the different kinds of packages for helping publicize your industry, your business, and your company, and yourself, right? We have a number of people that, especially the younger group now, really are looking at their personal brands very strongly. When in our age group, you never could think to do that. It was always the company brand, right? So that's really interesting, right? So this show is going to be a vehicle for that. And then we have another show called Think Money, which you've seen some of the ads moving. We're going to move to do that, and it's going to be kind of an interesting format. Is that it'll be 30-minute segments, right? And the first 10-minute segment, whoever the guest is, and we're going to have a wide range of guests out of wherever industry, right? Will be 10 minutes or so of them talking about what they're passionate about, why their followers are following them, why their customers look for them, why they're important in their space, in their industry. This is this whole first half of it. And the second half is where I want to ask financially based questions, right? Do you have bank accounts, so if you don't mind, with who, right? How many cars do you have in your garage? I mean, I'm not going to ask how much anybody makes, but these kind of interesting questions. But then get to, do you have life insurance? Do you have a retirement plan? Do you own crypto? Which ones? Do you have you invested in stocks? And the idea, Grant, for me is something that you and I have talked about on a number of shows, which is the younger generation really does not have and has not been provided with the financial education that you need to live your life every day.
Yeah, very important. Very important.
So
I'm glad you are doing that. You're bringing that full circle. We've got just 10 minutes left. We're going to go to a quick break. Then we're going to come back and we're going to finish off this show, and we'll talk about what we're going to do for next week. So bear with us. We'll be right back.
Follow the Brand TV broadcast host, Grant McGaw, as he visits with top executives and entrepreneurs to find out their secrets of success with their personal brand. Follow the Brand TV broadcast host as he focuses on brand development to build better relationships, bring value to your business, relationships, and career. You will enjoy listening to each episode that is tailored to speak to you directly. If you're looking for this type of clarity in terms of building your brand, you have tuned into the right station. Each episode will help you to shape a conversation in the 5-star BDM network of 20,000 professionals and become a springboard for your corporate engagement and business opportunities. Each guest will frame their story in the areas of personal branding, business development, career development, financial empowerment, and technology innovation. Grant McGaw explains why he is the CEO and owner of his own professional career. Grant is an accomplished business leader and entrepreneur who wants to give back to individuals to grow their personal brand strategy. Tune in as he weaves his story about new possibilities, while to you exceed expectations. If you love storytelling, this show will make for fun.
Third Wall Street is a new emerging global capital markets formation and structured trifactor financial hub at the U.S. Third Border in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands, in the Caribbean and Latin America. The new Third Wall Street is the home of the Alexander Hamilton Financial Center and named in honor of Alexander Hamilton, an American founding father, first U.S. Treasury Secretary, and architect of the U.S. financial system and modern America. Third Wall Street is located in a U.S. National Heritage Area, Opportunity Zone, and the boyhood home of Alexander Hamilton in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Island, connecting 3 financial hubs in the Americas by way of new innovative financial technology and markets: New York Wall Street South, Brickell Avenue, Miami, and Third Wall Street in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands, and established the new Caribbean America's Single Economy Zone, developed by SETI Case Capital Markets. Third Wall Street will transform financial markets, improving access to capital worldwide. Visit www.thirdwallstreet.com to learn more.
Hey, Chris, we are back. It's been a great hour just talking to you, learning more and more about financial IT, where they've been, where they're at now, and where they're going. This has been wonderful. We got a few minutes here left, and with these 5 minutes, I want to talk about how do you like the big picture? What have you learned about me and you come together? We've done probably about 15 shows or something like that, right? Right. Like, talk to me about the big picture in your mind.
Well, I tell you, the original idea of the big picture was, to be basically an interview kind of show, and we did a switch in the very beginning with that format where it's you and me, and we're looking at interesting topics and that cover kind of a wider range. I think a wider range than what we thought we would be talking about, and a lot of it is based on what's happening that particular day or week, and a lot of it is what we think we want to communicate to our audience. I mean, it's really for me is about, you know, how can we help them help themselves.
I like that. I like that a lot. How can we help them help themselves and educate the people? We talked, you just this last segment, we talked about this very, very important subject, and that is how is our populations, our audience really educated on financial matters and what's important. And the more I've understood this, right? I didn't get this like, you know, when I was younger or whatever it was, but truly understanding. And I want to beat this home. I want people to walk away every day and understand this. You are on a monopoly board. You don't have to like it, but guess what? You signed up, you're in the game. This is what we're playing. We're playing Monopoly. We're all playing Monopoly. You know, education is going to do for the most part. I don't K through 12, you know, higher education, undergrad. It's all about pass and go. You pass, go, collect $200. They teach you how to do that. They show you how to do that, but you have to take it upon yourself, as you talked about earlier. You got to start thinking of, well, are you going to get investments? Are you going to get real estate? Are you going to get a business, hotels, right? And this is the important part. This is the part I want everybody to take home. Like, well, you know what? I'm just going to pass go and collect $200. Well, guess what? As the game goes along, when you first go around that board, it's affordable. You can go around, you can land on Park Place, you can land on Baltic, doesn't matter. I got $4 or $5, I got $20 here. But as the game goes on, it gets more and more expensive, right? Because other people are actually playing the game. They're actually accumulating assets, right? And if you're not doing that, you're just like, you know what? I'd rather go to jail. Oh, you know what? Free parking look very, very good right now. Well, maybe I'll roll the dice and get something out of community chess or a chance. That's really not the way you want to play the game.
Yeah, you're really not playing, then you're being played.
Spoken like a New Yorker. Yeah, or you land on that property, you're bankrupt. You don't want to be out of the game, right?
So, Grant, it's sad to say, I would say the majority of people in this world, you know, that are employed are basically pass and go and getting $200 and that's it, you know. And this, you know, really, and it comes back to the same thing I said earlier. You know, if you want extra, you got to do the extra. Nothing's coming because of you, right? It's coming because you worked for it, right? You did put the time and you did it. So, Grant, I love when you do the Monopoly examples because it really fits so well. But
it's very, 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 very relevant, right?
I would be interested in hearing, you know, how do you view your experience here on The Big Picture?
No, this has been very educational. First, man, I get the chance to get up and close with the owner, co-founder of Financial IT. I'm telling you, man, Chris gets me going. First, you've educated me more about crypto. You've educated me more around how this financial picture on a worldwide international basis is changing. It's changing, and it's changing rapidly. And you have an opportunity now. Like, well, you know what? Maybe you've been playing small. We call that playing small when you're just pass and go. Maybe now you can do something different. This is an opportunity to do something different. We've only got 10 seconds left. Tell us what we're going to do next week.
Well, Grant, I think next week we'll do a little recapping of FinTech news, because now that the holiday's over and before the next holiday, Christmas, one of my favorites, and New Year's, okay, before they come, we'll have some end of the year kind of FinTech news. So we'll go into some of that, and then we'll see where it takes us, Grant. You know, we'll kind of move along.
Well, thank you, my friend. Happy holidays to you, and I will see you next week on The Big Picture.
Great. Thank you, Grant.